Good morning, happy Friday, and 12 hours from now, I will be back home. All will be revealed in 24 hours, but that's something for again tomorrow. So let's get to my low, my high, my active kindness. Where's my low? Where's my low? Where's my low? Frankly, I went to bed later than I should have. Therefore, I woke up later than I wanted to. But that's okay. I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. I am so stoked for getting today started. So, I'm okay. My high? What else can I say? Yesterday's episode of Hot Ones was my high. And I saw a movie I've been waiting to see for months now. I am so happy. I will get into that momentarily. And act of kindness was I ran an errand for my father's shop. So I did that. So there's a lot for me to get into. Let's get started. And I just realized this is the first one of these videos I've done, because basically it's, talking about the Hot Ones episode and doing a movie reaction, or MoReas as I call it. But this is the first time where I talk about this week's Hot Ones episode, and I immediately then talk about a movie in which said Hot Ones guest was in. I don't think I've ever done that before. So this is quite different. But with that said, it was Chris Hemsworth, Thor the God of Thunder himself. And he actually plays the main villain of the movie Furiosa, which is what I saw yesterday. And that's why he was on Hot Ones, to promote Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. In fact, the very... Seriously? I didn't even... It was 30. What the heck? Okay, well... I don't care. Leave it in. I don't care. Because there's a lot to talk about. So the very first question was... Did Chris Hemsworth get any perverse joy in actually playing a villain? I mean, he's Thor the God of Thunder. I mean, he's known for being, a hero. So, what's it like to play a villain? Well, for one thing, yes, it is incredibly different. Because when you play a hero in movies, there are quote-unquote rules you have to abide by. Your demeanor has to be one okay, this guy's playing a hero and I can believe he's a hero. When you're a villain, on the other hand, you don't need to abide by those rules. People say it's fun to play a villain. This is why. I mean, don't get me wrong. If, God willing, I was ever in a movie, of course, my mind would immediately want to become, the main hero of the movie. But I know for a fact I would totally rock it as a villain as well. Because I know for a fact I'd have a lot of fun. I'd be free of those, shackles. You know what I mean? That's literally what Chris Hemsworth said it was. It was removing shackles. And his favorite driving memory, because this is a Mad Max film, there was a lot of big machinery and cars. There's just lots of fun driving in the vehicle, which is literally 3 motorcycles put together in forms like a chariot. That's his main thing. But then at the end of the movie, he has a big truck that he drives. And then actually a motorcycle. Which was cool. Then the second wing is, what's it like to shoot a fight sequence, and is it all rehearsed or whatever? And let's be real here. Fight sequences, for the most part, they need to be rehearsed for safety reasons. Seriously, can you imagine what would happen if you get hurt doing fight sequences in movies? There'd be so much controversy involved. You need that preparation. You need that level of controlled chaos to make fight sequences work. The next question Sean asked is, does he have any stress techniques? specifically anything that would help him with taking on the wings of death. And not only did he have a stress technique, it's actually something that I myself have heard of before. It's called box breathing. Basically, in the span of 4 seconds, you're supposed to like inhale deeply and exhale slowly. And throughout the whole process, you form a sweat. Like, it should take about 4 seconds, like that. Like that's sort of like that's supposed to relieve stress. I mean, personally, I always help deep breathing, but I get why, like, you use the box technique, because, like, it gives you some sort of, it gives you something to focus on when you're breathing in and breathing out slowly, which is really important. Then they talked about things you can't do when heading a $1 billion movie franchise. I mean, this is obvious. In fact, I could answer this one. Just don't overexert yourself. You know, don't get hurt. Overall, like, you know what? Make good choices. Sound familiar? Let's see. How did being on the soap opera Home and Away prepare him for Hollywood? Which, you know what? This is something that was really important to me, for me to hear, in terms of, you know, Chris Hemsworth's journey to where he is right now. Because were it not for being on Home and Away, he would never learn how to be comfortable in front of a camera. He wouldn't know to learn lines on the fly. He wouldn't know how to, like, hit those exact marks that a director asks of him to do. And that's important. Like, that's why, like, that really is what separates, you know, good actors from me. I mean, technically any good actor could do those things, but a great actor could do it so much better, if that makes sense. He talked about how he would describe himself as a moviegoer, which is, obviously growing up, he loved like the magic of seeing something on the big screen, but seeing as he's an adult now, and his profession literally allows him to know what's behind the scenes, the magic's kind of gone. However, watching Mad Max Fury Road was the first movie he'd seen in a while where he was completely immersed in the experience, which, I mean, it's Mad Max Fury Road. It was the best movie I saw in 2015. And it was probably the best movie for a lot of people in 2015. And it's also why I had to see Furiosa yesterday, which I will be getting into momentarily. Let's see. Next wing was he talked about what happens when a fan asks him a question that's like sort of a deep cut comic book question, and he's pretty open about the things he doesn't know. But he's read some comic books. He knows some things, but I mean, he's not free from any of those sometimes awkward moments that happens when a fan asks him, hey, you know, in this comic book, Thor did this, but in the movie, Thor didn't do what he did in the comic. What is that? Like, again, there's like those awkward moments. And listen, we live in a day and age where, thanks to technology, we can actually recreate some of those iconic comic book moments in history. But even today, we've only come so far. You know what? We've come so very far, but we still have so very far to go. If that makes sense. He talked about, when he got to the bomb, he talked about the greatest wave he's ever surfed, which is, there was this one time in Fiji, he went out for the last big set, and it turns out there was just more and more and more waves, and they were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. He remembers where he was and how he celebrated when his Western Bulldogs won the AFL Grand Final, which he was there, he was with his dad, he was crying. I mean, the last time the Bulldogs won was when his dad was born, which is like 50, 60 years ago. So that's pretty special. And for the last Dad Experience, he talked about the greatest action movie performance of all time. They're both in the movie Kickboxer and Bloodsport. I've never seen those movies, but I may have to watch them at some point. Speaking of movies to watch, let's talk about Furiosa. Oh my God. Look, it's pretty safe to say that George Miller has solidified himself as one of the greatest directors of all time. But before I get into Furiosa, I'm sure since it's part of the Mad Max series, I should talk about a little bit of the Mad Max movies as well. Full disclosure, I never saw the original trilogy. The only Mad Max movie I saw was Fury Road. But that's okay. You don't need to watch the original trilogy to watch Fury Road. Fury Road is actually meant to stand on its own. However, I do have to refer to Erod, aka the Blockbuster Buster, for the following. You don't need to watch the original Mad Max trilogy so you can watch Fury Road and then Furiosa as well. However, it will enhance your experience if you do. If, however, and for whatever reason, you can only watch one of the original trilogy, then I highly, highly, highly recommend you watch the second one, Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. I mean, personally, I've never seen any. Listen, from what I know and from what I've heard, none of the Mad Max movies are bad. Oh yeah, even Thunderdome has its fans. Shout out to Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic. So, with that said, how was Furiosa? Oh my God, it was so freaking awesome. It was so awesome. I mean, I do want to talk about one thing first before I get, because there's only one thing that, not that I was bothered by this, but I couldn't help but notice it. Everything that happens in this movie, literally everything that happens in this movie is predicated on Furiosa getting herself captured. And she got captured all because she lived in, like, if you've seen Fury Road, then you know that she comes from a place of abundance, like a green place, fresh, like green plants, water, all that stuff. She sees like these, bad guys. I can't think of what they are at the moment. Dementis men. I'll get to Dementis in a second. She sees like a couple of them like in that area, and she's worried they'll leave, they'll tell whatever gang they're from that this place exists, and then they'll go to take it over. So what Furiosa does is she tries to cut the brake lines of fuel pumps, the fuel lines of like their other motorcycles, but she winds up getting captured. Had she literally done nothing, had she literally not done that, seriously, all she had to do was just keep herself hidden from like these bikers, and she would have been fine. But if she doesn't get captured, you wouldn't have what happens in the movie. Therefore, you also wouldn't have what happens in Mad Max Fury Road. And what happens in the movie is the greatest revenge story I've seen since Django Unchained. And Deadpool. Deadpool was a good revenge story too. It's like up there with Django Unchained and the first Deadpool movie is like two of the greatest revenge stories I've ever seen. Because Furiosa's mother tries to save her, but then we run into the big bad of the movie, Dementis, played by Chris Hemsworth himself. And remember how he said earlier when Chris Hemsworth was asked what's it like to play a villain, and he said it's more fun to play a villain? Boy, does he get immersed in this role. Because he really is just like a vile, despicable human being. Like all throughout this movie, you want Furiosa to do the absolute worst thing you could ever do to Dementus. Like, obviously killing him would be ideal, but to truly make a villain suffer, you need to leave them alive in a way that makes them truly regret for the rest of their days what they did. And Furiosa was captured by Dementus' men. Dementus killed her mother, and in trying to control all of Immortan Joe's territory, he barters her with Immortan Joe. So he gets Gastown, one of the three, because there's three fortresses that Immortan Joe owns: the Citadel, Gastown, and the Bullet Farm. And it's Gastown that Dementus now controls. And about halfway through the movie, Furiosa tries to escape, but she can't because this one guy that she's with, like, realizes what she's trying to do, and it seems like she's gonna drive away and leave her alone in the wasteland. But then, like, the guy walks back, he's like, "Where do you think you were gonna go?" I mean, if you think Gastown is worse, the Bullet Farm is almost is even worse. Like, stick with me, I'll teach you the rules of fighting on the road, and when you're ready, you can go on your own. Basically, hold on, who was the guy who played, the guy who trained her? Also, I want to give a shout out to two specific characters, because there's my two favorite characters in the movie, outside of Furiosa and Dementus themselves, are, hold on. Hold on. Gotta find it real fast. Hold on. Hold on. Praetorian Jack, that's his name. Praetorian Jack, played by... Who's he played by? Tom Burke. Like, Tom Burke's character, and, shoot, there's one other character I can't... Darn it. Well, basically there was this one old guy who was, in Dementus's, shoot. There's like this one old guy who was known as like the history man. Like, throughout like Furiosa's journey, the history man is like the first guy to actually show kindness to Furiosa, even though they don't really talk about it that much. And I like that guy. The history man was cool. But shout out to Tom Burke for playing Praetorian Jack, because, like, he's exactly the kind, like, yes, this is a wasteland. This is a harsh environment. Like, it is kill or be killed at times. Praetorian Jack, and to a lesser extent the history man, are like those two instances where there actually is some good in the world. Even for how bad the world has become. Like, there's that little bit of hope, like, okay, as long as this person's around, you're good. And then when Praetorian Jack and Furiosa try and go back to Furiosa's home, Dementus finds out and he kills Dementus. And we find out Furiosa loses her arm, which is actually pretty gruesome and heroic in a lot of ways. So basically, it's pretty obvious that Immortan Joe is aware that Dementus is trying to take over, is in danger of losing everything due to Dementus. So Furiosa, says, listen, Dementus is pretending to have Gastown lit on fire because he's going to have you guys go to Gastown, then his entire army is going to go to the Citadel and they'll take over. But that doesn't happen. And so what happens is one of the most exciting chase sequences I've ever seen. Because one by one, Furiosa is just killing off the remnants of Dementis' men, leaving only Dementis himself at the end. And I don't want to give away what winds up happening to Dementis in this movie. But remember how I said that to truly make a villain suffer, they should be alive, but it should do so in a way that they regret everything they do for the rest of their life? That happens. And Chris Hemsworth did an amazing job playing. I mean, a movie is only as good as its villain. And Chris Hemsworth did that with aplomb. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love seeing him as Thor the God of Thunder, I really do. But him playing more villains in the future, I'd be okay with that. But now I gotta get into two actresses who made, well, technically three. The first is Charlie Fraser, playing Mary Jo Bossa, Furiosa's mother. Like, that's, like, she literally did all she could to try and save Furiosa from Dementis' men. If that is not a mother's love, I do not know what is. I have to give a shout out to Ayla Brown for playing the young version of Furiosa. Because, like, that's, like, here's the thing. For, like, the first, pretty much for the first, like, half of the movie, Furiosa barely says, like, nothing. Almost nothing at all. But that's good. Show, not tell. And Ayla Brown, like, her performance is just in her looks and silence alone. And that is brilliant. Like, that's the sort of thing we need to see more in movies. And I gotta get into the main lady herself, Miss Anna Taylor-Joy. Well, if that second part of her name is to be believed, she lived up to it, because watching her play Furiosa brought me immense joy. She was phenomenal. Like, to say that she became Charlize Theron, who played Furiosa in Fury Road, is an understatement. Like, you believe, like, actually it's to the point where both Anna Taylor-Joy's character and Charlize Theron's character were both being Furiosa. Like, you couldn't even tell them apart. Like, that's how good the effect. I don't say get a shot. Before I continue, I gotta say, there's a lot of really great practical effects, and I love that there's a lot of great practical effects in this movie. That's how it should be. But there's a boatload of CGI, too. Here's the thing, though. This CGI is so good that you'd never believe it was there. And that's the best kind of CGI. The best CGI you could ever see in a movie is CGI that's so good you can't tell it's there. And I love that. That's exactly what you need. That's exactly what you need. I love that. It's awesome. By the way, before I continue talking about Anna Taylor-Joy, I'm sure some of you are wondering if Mad Max appears in the movie at all. Spoiler alert, he does, but it's for like 5 seconds and it's a cameo. It's not even Tom Hardy playing the character. So, don't worry, you don't miss. I mean, listen, this is Furiosa's story. You don't need to see Mad Max in this. So, let's talk about Anna Taylor-Joy. Because Furiosa is a character who literally her whole life has been through nothing. Like, she literally disguised herself as one of the war boys just to escape the advances of one of Immortan Joe's sons, Rectus Erectus. Actually, both Nathan Jones, who plays Rictus Erectus, and Josh Helmed, who plays Scrotus, they were really good too. But, I mean, this is the kind of movie that will tell you that a woman will do just about anything she has to do to survive. And, like, listen, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of haters out there. Oh, she's a woman character. She can't do... That's a load of bullshit. That is a load of bullshit. This is one of these... No, it's not the strongest. It's not one of the strongest. It's one of the strongest performances, man or woman, I've ever seen. Ever. Of course, Anna Taylor-Joy. I mean, in a perfect world, Anna Taylor-Joy gets nominated for an Oscar for this movie. But it's probably not going to happen. Which sucks. Because that woman deserves an Oscar nomination. If she does not get an Oscar nomination for this movie, that is snobbery. That is straight snobbery, if I've ever seen it. If she does not get nominated for an Oscar, she probably won't, but man, she should. I mean, actually, Chris Hemsworth should get nominated for being Dementis too, if we're being honest. And Tom Burke playing Praetorian Jack, he was great too. Man, like, great performances, great action. Oh my God. Like, Jesus, there was a lot of great action in this movie. Great effects. I mean, again, the CGI is still good. You can't even tell it's there. A great villain played by Chris Hemsworth. A strong, powerful woman played by Anya Taylor-Joy. Like, what do you need? What else do you need? I mean, there is a very strong possibility by the end of this year, I'll say that Furiosa was the best movie I've seen this whole year. And don't get me wrong, there's a few other movies I want to see. Deadpool, Wolverine, everybody. But for now, I feel very comfortable saying, you need to watch this movie. Like, over the last several years, there's been several, like, female-oriented movies that didn't get the praise and recognition it deserved. I'm really glad I'm seeing this movie get the recognition it deserves. Last time I checked, it has, actually, what's it have on Rotten Tomatoes? Like, hold on. An 88%. 88% Rotten Tomatoes, it's awesome. It has an 88% Rotten Tomatoes. That's pretty damn good, if you ask me. I mean, in a perfect world, it would be 100%, but, again, we all can't be perfect. This, you know what, this is, actually, I just realized, only now I just realized, this is technically a prequel. This is the best prequel I've ever seen. Screw it. This is the best prequel I've ever seen. Oh my God. Although we're talking about sequel prequels, that's the first Star Trek movie that came out in 2009, which Chris Hemsworth was also in, come to think of it. Yeah, at this point, I'm just rambling. For the love of God, go see Furiosa. Like, this movie was just so freaking amazing. And you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you don't see it. I hope y'all like this video. If you don't like it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on social media. As always, I'm very humble in this video. For all of you guys watching Jordan, hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Friday. And remember that you guys want to talk to me as we get the laser back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.